Hello and welcome aboard the Battleship Pretension from Cinephile Video in Los Angeles, California. I'm Tyler Smith.
And I'm David Bax.
And thank you for watching. David, how you doing?
It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel like Chinese food. Today we'll be reviewing Abel Ferrara's 444, Last Day on Earth.
Absolutely, and we will be joined by actor Pat Healy in just a moment, but first, 444.
We were talking a lot how to deal with these final minutes, and today it doesn't matter where you live or how much money you have. We are all about to face the same fate at the same moment.
The story is simple enough. It's the end of the world, and we spend the last day with an aging New York artist and his considerably younger girlfriend.
You think they're right?
I know they're right.
I mean, the streets look like any normal holiday. Pretty calm, at least for now.
Oh! No! Leave that man alone!
I'm gonna smoke my cigarette and I'm gonna die.
Sense of caring one another, sense of sharing one another, there's a sense of community.
It's getting heavy.
On your knees and pray, on your knees and pray, on the last day.
The end of the world, the end of the dream. I want to see it.
From their mother's arms to their daddy's grave.
My heart against your heart.
Forgive me. It's the last day.
Now, David.
Yeah.
If the world were to end tomorrow, I like to think that I would spend my last moments nestled in your loving embrace.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Let's get into it, shall we?
I thought the movie was good. For the most part, I really like the idea. I like the idea of large-scale things being brought down to like a very small scale and dealing with the emotions of, okay, well, it's all over, and the messiness that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the world, the end of the dream, the end of... Oh, I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to fucking be wide awake.
The only thing that I have a problem with, and it's not necessarily a flaw of the film, is that I don't like these people. I don't enjoy spending time with them. But I think that's okay.
I'm not entirely convinced that Abel Ferrara thinks these characters are unlikable. I think he thinks Willem Dafoe is pretty cool. In fact, I think he's probably supposed to be a bit of a surrogate for Abel Ferrara.
Ah! Fuck that book! What is wrong with you people? Leave that man alone!
Dafoe is great.
He's wonderful.
In it, and I think he really does carry it, because there's a lot not to like, and also there's a lot on the page. There's some monologizing, soliloquizing on the rooftop that is a rough thing, but he really sells it. Part of the joke is that hours before the world is supposed to end, we see people working out at, like, we see across from his apartment, there's a window into like a fitness place, and people are on the treadmill.
It's well established that not everyone believes that this is going to happen. Maybe they're doubters, but frankly, I don't think so. I think it's a comment on like just us, you know, the way our tendency to like cling to these really petty things to the very end.
10 minutes in, I was pretty sure I hated this movie.
Really? Okay.
At the beginning, it's just like, oh, look at this guy with his stupid loft, and like she's making this stupid painting that she makes throughout the entire movie, and then there's a sex scene. It seems just gross because Willem Dafoe is 60 or whatever, and he's
a little stringy,
and she's like maybe 21, like she's really young. It won me over after that, but by degrees. Because I started thinking, what is this movie really about besides just Abel Ferrara's sort of masturbatory fantasy of like self-pity and fucking his 21-year-old girlfriend. Yeah. Basically, I think of this as sort of a dissertation on togetherness and isolation in modern day.
I think I really responded to the humanity that comes out and the struggles that they have in light of, well, the end is coming, and the idea of him wanting to stay sober, but at the same time, what's the point? And then his friend makes the argument of like, well, I'd rather go out clear-eyed. It bothered me at first, but his girlfriend like goes off and like has these crazy mood swings, and he himself kind of explodes a little bit. And at first I was like, man, that sure is abrupt and unexpected. And it's like, well, the world's about to end. Maybe it's not that unexpected. Maybe the more unexpected thing is how contained they are most of the time. And you realize then that they're screaming constantly inside, but they're trying to kind of keep a brave face for each other.
And also for themselves.
And for themselves. And so when that bursts forth, it's jarring, and at times off-putting because, as I said, like these aren't the most pleasant characters, but it got me thinking like who would be pleasant in that kind of circumstance. But by and large, it's a film that I thought was very thought-provoking, and I'm not sure if I would say I enjoyed it, but I
well performed.
Was happy that I watched it.
And beautifully shot.
Yeah.
I think. Really, really nice compositions and sharp colors in HD on your on-demand.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with actor Pat Healy.
All right, we're back. We just reviewed Abel Ferrara's 444 Last Day on Earth, and here to talk about more end-of-the-world films, we have a guest.
Yes, our guest today is an actor whose recent credits include The Innkeepers and the controversial Sundance film Compliance, Pat Healy. Pat, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Speaking of things you're not prepared for, no one's prepared for the apocalypse.
Right.
So you and your kind think you're prepared.
Yeah.
For the apocalypse. But that's only if it goes down the way that it's supposed to, like in The Rapture with Will Patton and Tom Cruise's ex-wife.
Why lead with Will Patton in that film? Come on.
Because I couldn't remember Mimi Rogers' name.
Fair enough.
Isn't Duchovny in that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever see it?
I believe so, long ago.
It's a good movie.
It is a solid movie. I really like it.
There was a lot of movies around that time. I think that Miracle Mile is around that time, too.
I never saw that.
I remember being in grade school and in junior high school and like, you know, the threat of, you know, a nuclear attack from the Russians primarily was like really, you know, it seemed like a very real possibility and was in fact. Another movie on TV that actually was very popular on television or so good that was released theatrically was Testament. Is with Jane Alexander as a woman whose husband goes to work one day. They're in suburban San Francisco, and the bomb goes off, but they're like in a suburb, so they just sort of slowly wait for the cloud to like reach them, and everyone around her dies. It's the most depressing movie ever.
Well, yeah,
like all of her kids die, and all.
We also just recently, you know, a lot of us saw Lars von Trier's Melancholia.
Yes.
Oh. What is in the water right now, do you think, that's causing these art house provocateurs to make apocalypse movies?
Well, I think that, you know, we're certainly in a fragile economic state, not just here in the States, but everywhere in the world. I think, by the way, the current zombie craze plays into that as well. And I think, you know, there are very real, tangible threats now, you know, with terrorism and people sort of seeing, you know, end of days and things. There was Melancholia, then there was sort of the flip side of Melancholia. There was another film that sort of was a little more hopeful. But Take Shelter.
Earth, is that, which I didn't see.
No. Well, Take Shelter was a film it's interesting because Take Shelter and Melancholia are films that I liked a lot, but that I, you know, in the last sort of, you know, few minutes of them, I sort of didn't like as much. And I pinpointed the reason why is that I think for a lot of my life I was, you know, very much a depressive. And both films, you know, without spoiling too much, sort of support this idea that the apocalypse is kind of in the minds of these characters who are mentally unstable or depressed. But the endings of both films bear out this idea that they're right, you know? And that was like certainly a part of like the post-apocalyptic movies in that same period they were talking about in the 80s, which is like Mad Max, and those films were coming out of this energy crisis. We're running out of oil, which is something that comes up all the time now as well, not just in fiction films, but documentaries, you know, like Collapse, Chris Smith's documentary that where a guy talks about, you know, this idea of peak oil that we're running out.
End of the world movies, like 60s, 70s, even into the 80s a little bit, it very much was that the communists are going to get us with a nuclear bomb. That's what it is.
Or create a Godzilla.
Indeed. But I think one of the reasons that there's so many post-apocalyptic end-of-the-world movies now is because it's this idea of like all these things happening at once and the paranoia of like, well, I don't even know where it's going to come from. At least back then we knew who was going to kill us. Now it could be any person, anything, ourselves, all-purpose paranoia that seems to be permeating the culture.
Yeah, and again, the idea of scarcity. We're running out of stuff, so we're going to start eating each other now. So
I think that's a great place to wrap it up. You can find us at battleshippretension.com, where you can listen to our weekly podcast or read movie reviews. Pat, where can people find you and your work on the internet?
Twitter, Pat_Healy, Healy. Tumblr, the Pat Healy, tumblr.com.
So, Pat, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks to Cinephile Video for having us, and thank you at home for watching.
We'll get you next time.
Bye.
Bye.